Good morning, everybody. Welcome back from spring break and back to reality. So, we're going to do a little recap of what we did before break, and I'm hoping all of you are now online, understanding what's expected of you. So, I'm going to go through what we're doing today, which ties into what we did before spring break. So, hopefully, if you weren't doing stuff before spring break, this is a nice little catch up for you, or maybe you forgot. I'm going to go through the third and final way to solve quadratics. So as you know, quadratic equation, it has a solution when you can input a value for x and make the input is whatever, but then the output equals 0. So most times there's two solutions, other times there's just one solution, and there are moments, and we went over this last week and talked about the graph crossing the x-axis, where there are no solutions. And today, what's going to show is this quadratic. So this form of solving a quadratic will show you exactly how and why you can use arithmetic to find when there are no solutions or it's impossible. So just to give you a little heads up, first I'm going to go through this easy one, solving this the way that I would expect you guys to all solve this by factoring. Then I'll go through completing the square, and then I'm going to use the quadratic function right there, the quadratic formula. So first things first, if you guys remember just the quick and easy way, if you ever see something like this, I always encourage you to it's more efficient to always factor. So remember, in case you forgot, what multiplies to this number right here, this -8, that adds to this +2. That's right, -2 and +4. So you would factor this down into x minus 2 and x plus 4 equals 0. So your solutions for this are going to be x equals 2 and x equals -4. Input these two values for x. In either one of these, you're always going to get an answer of 0. So that's how we know that's a solution. And that's just a little recap of using factoring to solve quadratics. Now, there's probably a little bit of confusion still around completing the square, and that has to do with graphing a function. We all have to know that inside and out, and I'll be spending time this week and next week going into that on deeper levels. But just in case you forgot, remember, you always take these first two terms and you just leave this guy outside. But in case you forgot, you take half of this, and you square that. So half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is +1. Remember, I brought a +1 in, I must take a -1 out. I always do the opposite of what I brought in here. It's always this times whatever's in front of here, which happens to be an invisible 1. So now to go further, this now says x plus 1 squared minus 9 equals 0. Well, now I'm going to solve this to show that my solutions are still going to be 2 and -4. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. I got x plus 1 squared equals 9. Square root both sides. Remember, this is plus or minus. So now this says x plus 1 equals plus or minus 3. Subtract 1 from both sides. So I'm going to have x equals -1 plus 3, which is 2. And I'm also going to have -1 minus 3, which is -4. Hence, the exact same solutions is right there. Now, I'm going to show you a third way to do this. And I'm going to do a couple examples, but I'm just using this as my introduction so you see the connections between everything. Now, we'll dive into when it's more efficient to use which one. I think by now you know this is necessary. Just the efficiency to solve this one by factoring is much easier. We use completing the square to put it in vertex form to help us graph our quadratics. And then you can always, and remember, this is the vertex. So the vertex of this particular quadratic is at -1, -9, and it opens up, just so you have a visual in your head where that is. Now let's use the quadratic formula, okay? Do me a favor, when you guys are using this formula, you're not reading this as -b, you're reading that as the opposite of b. And remember, it's always ax squared plus bx plus c. So it's important to know which letters are distinguished by which numbers. So now that we have a formula and I know which coefficients line up with which letters, well, the opposite of b is -2 plus or minus square root of b squared, I'm going to write this all out, minus 4 times a times c. Okay? and this is all over 2 times a. Remember that a is 1. So I just wrote it out the long way so you guys are seeing what's going on. Now I'm going to just do the math. Focus on the inside and take your time. So I got -2 plus or minus square root of 4. This is what I always do to make sure I don't mess up, okay? I'm looking at my numbers here. I got a negative, positive, negative. So the negative times a negative, which is a positive. So I know this is going to say 4 plus something. -4 times 1 is -4. -4 times -8 is positive 32. All over 2 times 1, which is 2. Now let's just go through this. This is -2 plus or minus square root of 36 all over 2. And this gets simplified to -2 plus or minus 6 all over 2, which equals -2 plus 6, which is 4 over 2, which equals 2. And I also have -2 minus 6, which is -8 over 2, which is -4. So I just showed you a third way to solve the exact same quadratic. Now, I'm going to do a couple more examples so you guys can see exactly what I mean by sometimes you'll have one solution, sometimes you'll have no solutions, and sometimes you'll have infinite solutions. I'm sorry, not infinite solutions. You'll have no solution or one solution. So, bear with me for 1 second. Okay. So, this is a one solution situation, okay? So I got 3x squared equals 6x minus 3. Now, if you see something like this, you got to make sure that you guys are, first and foremost, you got to have all the letters and coefficients on one side of the equation. So I could subtract 3x squared, bring it over to this side, so then it says -3x squared plus 6x minus 3 equals 0. Or I could just bring both of these over to this side. So you pick your poison. It doesn't make a difference what you do. I just like to keep my a positive. That's just, I'm a creature of habit. So I always just, if I can keep this positive, I'll bring both of these this way. It just works for me this way. So now this says 3x squared minus 6x plus 3 equals 0. Now I'm going to use the formula to find out what my solutions are. So opposite of b. So opposite of this is going to be 6 plus or minus square root of. And I'm going to go through this rather quick here, so I hope you guys can follow along. I know that this is b squared. -6 squared is, that's right, positive 36. Minus 4 times 3 times 3. Okay? All over 2 times 6. I'm sorry, my apologies. 2 times 3, because that is the 2a. Now I'm going to go through. So now look what happened here. -4 times 3 is -12. -12 times 3 is -36. 36 minus 36 is 0. So this will say 36 minus 36 all over 6. So this is going to be the square root of 0, okay? Which is 0. So what you end up getting is 6 over 6, which equals 1. I'm not doing two answers here because what's inside my square root is 0. So this is a case where I'm only going to have just one solution. My last example is going to be a situation where we are going to produce a no solution situation, and you'll see how this makes sense using arithmetic instead of looking at the graph and seeing that the graph itself does not cross the x-axis. So let's say I had something like, for instance, let's just say 2x squared plus x plus 4 equals 0. I randomly made this one up, and I know that it's not going to work because watch what's going to happen. Opposite of b is right here. Opposite of 1 is -1. Plus or minus b squared, which is 1, so that's 1 squared, minus 4 times 2 times 4, all over 2 times 2. Well, look what happens on your inside, okay, of your square root. I'm going to have -1 plus or minus square root of negative 4 times 8, negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. All over 4. And this simplifies to negative 1 plus or minus square root of negative 31 all over 4. Because I have a negative under my square root, this is a no solution situation because it is impossible, hence imaginary numbers come out of negative square roots. So this is not going to work. This is a situation we're going to have a no solution situation. Today's work is just practicing using the formula. I am available on my office hours, as I emailed all your parents the other night, and I'll put instructions on Classroom for you guys. Feel free to ask me any questions you want. I'll be available for the hour, open forum, and we'll figure stuff out this week. And then I will eventually get you guys an electronic book so that we can start following the curriculum. But everything we've been doing thus far has just been stuff to, make doing book work a little easier. So we're doing all the skills involved there. So we'll follow along in the book sometime this week. I don't know when yet, but I will see you guys during conferences. Thank you.